Hello everyone and welcome to Making It on Mondays. Today we're talking about caffeine and fertility. Now, Making It on Mondays is brought to you by the Acupuncture Pregnancy Clinic, which is an integrative traditional Chinese medicine clinic and an acupuncture clinic dedicated to reproductive health, to IVF support and to pregnancy care. Now, these weekly sessions are designed to help and support those on their fertility journey and are all about empowering women and men who are trying to conceive through providing weekly workshops with relevant and research-based resources. Now, in these sessions, we cover topics such as TCM fertility, nutrition, mindset, and the latest research and resources, as well as tips from the experts both inside and outside of our clinic. Now, today I am your host, and for those of you who don't know me, my name is Louise Jeffrey. I'm a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, an acupuncturist, and a coach, and I've been in practice helping couples trying to conceive since 2010. So as I said, today we're going to talk about caffeine and fertility. Will it hurt my chances of conceiving? And we're going to be on together for around 10 minutes or so. Please feel free to make any comments and we will get back to you with any questions that you have. So many of our patients ask, can I drink caffeine when I'm trying to fall pregnant? Well, the answer to that is there's actually a lot of information and a lot of misinformation out there about caffeine and whether we should or shouldn't be having it when we're trying to conceive. So today I'm going to share just a little bit of research with you, and then I'm going to tell you how we view caffeine from a TCM perspective, from a Chinese medicine perspective, so we can try and have the most balanced view possible. Now, caffeine is really a hot topic because for many of us, if we're trying to conceive and we're trying to eat well and not stress and sleep well, and the list goes on, we feel like coffee is the one pleasurable delight that we have in our lives. So if you're a coffee lover, I understand and I know how you feel. I myself, I love the smell of coffee and I love the taste of coffee, but unfortunately coffee doesn't love me. So I stopped drinking coffee a couple of years back because it makes me feel jittery and anxious. But I know for some people, they can drink coffee and they love it, they love the taste, they love the smell as well, and it agrees with them, and that's absolutely fine. But what do we know about caffeine and fertility? Well, we know that high caffeine intake is associated with infertility and increased miscarriage rates. And even moderate coffee drinking, in other words, 1 to 3 cups per day, can reduce our fertility. And I'm just going to share a few studies with you. There was a study from 1992 done with 1,900 women in the US by the Yale University School of Medicine. And this study found that the risk of not conceiving for 12 months was 55% higher for women drinking 1 cup of coffee per day. And it was 100% higher for women drinking 1.5 to 3 cups per day. And then the last figure was 176% higher for women drinking more than 3 cups per day. So it's really, really interesting to see how caffeine can actually affect our fertility and to see how the risk jumps up so quickly with each extra cup per day. Now, there are more studies to share, but you're going to get the picture really, right? It seems that caffeine, for the most part, especially more than 1 cup a day, is generally considered to be unhelpful for fertility. Now, having said that, the other thing that I've found in my practice and in my years as an eating psychology coach is that when we hold on too tight to what we should and shouldn't eat and drink, and when we restrict too much, this can also create stress in the body, which is really not helpful either. It's not helpful for fertility. So we need to find the balance, and that's where traditional Chinese medicine comes in. Now with TCM, what we're trying to do is we're constantly trying to correct any imbalances in the body. And that's why we feel your pulse and we look at your tongue, because we're looking for what we call patterns of diagnosis or imbalances in the body. So for example, someone who presents with cold in their uterus, we will want to make sure that we warm the uterus and avoid cold swims and cold drinks and cold food, so that we can make sure that the blood keeps moving in the uterus, because we know that cold congeals and stagnates the blood. And another example is someone who presents with a lot of heat in their body, so the opposite, right? We'll want to avoid food and drinks that create more heat, because heat is dehydrating and it dries up the bodily fluids. So if you tend to run more hot than cold, for example, you might feel thirsty a lot, or you might feel warm and sweaty at night, for example, then avoiding coffee altogether whilst you're trying to conceive is preferable. People who suffer with any kind of insomnia, we say should stay away from caffeine altogether, even if it's at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. in the morning, because no matter what time of day, still for 12 to 14 hours after you've drunk that coffee, your central nervous system is in a heightened state. And this is because caffeine is a stimulant, right? It creates heat in the body and it dries the bodily fluids. And this is really not helpful for fertility. Caffeine is also a diuretic, which means we're often left feeling even more dehydrated. But really, a clear diagnosis of heat is needed from your acupuncturist. So if your Chinese medicine practitioner or your acupuncturist has told you that you have a pattern of heat within your body, then it's really important for you to avoid coffee and avoid caffeine. But if you have a colder constitution, for example, 1 week coffee a few times per week really may not make a huge impact, and it may not be the end of the world. Does that make sense? So if you get stuck with this, and if it doesn't really make sense, or you're not quite sure where you sit in this pattern, then you can ask your acupuncturist to let you know what they suggest, or just let us know in the comments box, or send us an email and we will try and help you out. Now, if you're a coffee drinker and you're trying to conceive naturally or with IVF and you don't have a hot constitution, then as I said, it's probably okay for you to reduce your caffeine intake to 1 to 2 coffees per week, maybe 1 tea per day, because tea has far less caffeine than a cup of coffee, rather than having to completely cut it out, right? And best to make sure that that coffee is a week 1, 2. Now, I have to acknowledge, though, that in Australia, coffee is a huge part of our culture. In this country, we relate coffee drinking to connection and to pleasure, and it's a whole experience in itself. And so giving coffee up can really leave us feeling quite deprived and disconnected. So it may not be just as simple as kind of giving it up. And if you know what I mean when I say that to you, coffee is sacred and it's somewhat of a ritual, then some suggestions can really be to replace the coffee with a healthier option, for example, like chai tea or a herbal tea, or something that still gives you pleasure and perhaps connection with others, but doesn't have the caffeine. And if you're really, really tired and exhausted, unfortunately, having a cup of coffee is really just throwing petrol onto the fire. It gets the flame or the chi to burn really strongly, but then that flame goes back to being really small and even smaller than before. So working on building your chi through other things rather than coffee and building up your energy that way is going to be a far better method than using caffeine to stimulate any energy that you need during the course of your day. So that's it for today. I hope that this session has been helpful. I hope it's been informative. If you've got any questions, please let us know. Any feedback, please let us know. For more detailed and resourceful information, visit our Facebook group or our Instagram, or sign up to our mailing list at acupuncturepregnancy.com.au. See you all soon. I hope you have a beautiful week, and bye for now.